In our Catholic tradition, we have this notion that is called the Beatific Vision. And that means that when we die, we go and we see God face to face. God as he is. He's not just some foreign spirit or anything, but God face to face. We pray that in our Eucharistic prayer for funerals. Part of the Eucharistic prayer is to see you, Lord, face to face. So I've decided that when I come to the Beatific Vision, I have a list of questions that I want to ask the Lord. And one of them is, what does this gospel mean? It's so confusing to me. You know, it's almost like Jesus is saying that it's okay to be crooked. It's okay to be dishonest. But I don't really necessarily believe that that's what, in a sense, the message that he's trying to put forth. It's very, very confusing. So I've been kind of struggling with this and have been for many years every time this comes up in our cycle of readings of what to explain, how to explain this and what to say. And I certainly do not have all of the answers. It certainly is very different from our first reading, which basically scolds people who cheat. You know, there's a group of people that would come into the marketplace and they would, at certain times of the year, like when there was a full moon or something, they would not cheat those who would come in and bring their wares to be sold and to bought. They wouldn't fix the scales or do other things. But boy, they couldn't wait until that full moon was over when they could go back to their crooked ways. And the prophet Amos says, you know, you're going to get it for doing that, basically. Cheating is not good. But it almost sounds like the opposite in the gospel, but I think there's a much stronger message that Jesus is trying to put forth. We have to understand what life was like in Jesus' day to comprehend what is being said. In our day and age, we live in a system of capitalism, and we own property, we own different things and such, and for the most part, we call it our own. In Jesus' day, very few people actually owned land or other things that they used. Most people were farmers, as you would expect, but the landowner was someone who was rather distant, maybe never even ever visited the land on which they owned. And he would find different people who were tenants to work the land and to live, and he'd give them maybe equivalent of what we would say maybe 50 to 60 acres, and on that they would build a home and they would raise their family, but then also they would till the ground and they would work it. As payment for this, whatever sort of produce, whether they grew wheat, whether they grew olives for olive oil, whatever it may be, a portion of it had to be given to the owner for payment. It wasn't given in cash, it was given in whatever was produced. So if you raised 100 bushels of wheat, you may have to give the owner 20, I don't know, whatever the agreeable wage was for the rent. And so the owner obviously could not get around to all of his places, so he appointed different people who were called stewards to go around and to do this and to take care of the land. Jesus tells a story where one of them was rather dishonest. He didn't do what he was supposed to do, or he had stolen from the owner himself, or he wasn't necessarily caring for the land as he should, whatever it may be. We're really not told exactly what he did, but he got fired. Now, the steward could have been thrown into jail, but instead the owner just dismissed him. You're not steward any longer. Now, this is in the days before Twitter and Facebook, and so news took a little bit longer to spread, and so the stewards figured that he had a short little window period of time to get around to the owners get around to the tenants before they found out that the owner had fired them. And so he said, how much do you owe? Well, this year I owe, 80 bushels of wheat. Here's your promissory note. Cross that out, and just write 50. And do that. And he went around to somebody else, and all of them, and he did that. But notice what he did. He brought the tenants into his deception. Well, that's not my handwriting. I didn't write that. It's like he kind of brought other people into it. But the dishonest steward, when the owner found out, he wasn't that upset. In fact, he thought it was kind of brilliant, because now these people owed him something. And so, well, they're going to go take care of him or what? I don't know. It's like one commentator said, it takes one rascal to know another rascal. It's kind of almost what's going on. But what's Jesus' point? What's his point of what he's saying? I don't even think it's really about these two characters. It's more about the possessions and the wealth that people had. You know, it is about that, you know, whatever you have ultimately is not yours. It's on loan to you from God, you know? And you can, in a sense, kind of say that's like, well, this is mine, or I did this. But it's like really the Lord who gives us everything, you know? And ultimately, we don't take any of it with us. You know, a couple weeks ago, a parishioner of mine who is kind of a local historian in Epworth invited me to come and to walk through the cemetery there at St. Pat's, and then we went out to Highview Cemetery outside of town on Gun Club Road, and he had done a lot of research on